Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and we're about 2 weeks into the OP11 format of the English version of the One Piece card game, and we also are kind of at the end of us having the unique starter deck cards. They're coming out at the end of this week for Japan, and to kind of wrap all of that together, I want to kind of make this meta report comparing and contrasting a couple of my thoughts going into this format, kind of some tournament results that we've had since then, and then lastly looking at my tier list and what's changed between now and 2 weeks ago based on tournament data and just, more testing and stuff too. So if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. We make a lot of One Piece content. I don't want you guys to miss it. Also, if you want any of the deck list data or anything else from this video, you can make sure to find them on my website, Eggman Events, which we have this data here. So we've had 5 big events in this format. We've had the Versus Games Florida Regionals, which had a green and purple Luffy win it. We also had the Gamers World Dublin Regionals, where we had a Betty win it. We also had a Core TCG Las Vegas Regionals, where we had a blue and purple Luffy win it. We also had the Amsterdam Regionals, where I don't have all of the data for this one specifically. If you guys are part of this event or want your deck list featured, let me know. We do know the top 16 leaders, and I do have some of the leaders here. But the majority of the deck lists I just don't have, especially like the top 8, even though they're Betty and Green Purple Luffy, where I would say those builds are a little bit more linear compared to other leaders. I just don't have the deck list at all. So if you guys have access to that or know someone I could contact for any of this stuff, let me know. But I do know the leaders, and that kind of does help some of the breakdown information too. And we also did have the Let's Play Games Sydney Regionals, which we did just add this to the website. I'm not making a video for this one just because of time reasons, but we did have another Betty win this event. So if you're looking at the 5 large events that happened around the world since this format started, we had 3 Bettys and then 1 copy of the Green Purple Luffy, as well as the Blue and Purple Luffy get that top there, which I think is really, really interesting to see. Like Betty's kind of like not even like the meta leader, in the sense it's more of the anti-meta, right? Betty's been around for such a long time, and we can look at like Nia's list for the build, right? Like we don't really have any new cards for this. We do have like 2 copies of like Zeus from OP11, but that's really it, right? That from the newest set, we also do have like the 2 copies of the EBO2 Sabo. So we've changed like a little bit in the last couple, sets and stuff. But like generally speaking, Betty's been kind of just like a constant of how the deck works. It's a very aggressive deck that takes advantage of decks that take a little bit, longer to set up or don't have any removal, right? This was something that was kept at bay for a long time because Rob Lucci was super relevant in the meta. Also, Doflamingo, like 4-drop Trafalgar Law, just set back a lot of these decks. And both those decks also being 5 life leaders means it's one more attack you have to try to get into the noggin, and that just makes it tough for Betty. So in this format where there's a lot of 3 and 4 life leaders just running around, I think that makes it easier for Betty. And then also those decks usually have a little bit more of the setup. They're known for being kind of like the more aggressive decks and being decks that are just like known to be, I'm the one in control. I'm the one who's able to establish a board. You have to answer me. So Betty being faster and more aggressive means that those decks have a little bit of a harder time keeping up to all the pressure they're able to do, even though again late game they have no way to recover. It's all or nothing kind of thing. So but generally speaking, I think Betty's come around because of a lot of people on these decks. And so it's weird to see it do better than those decks because it's just such a great deck at countering what people are mostly playing, right? We don't have a lot of leader data for all these. I do have the core TCG leader data coming in the next couple weeks. There's a chance by the time you watch this video, it's the next couple days, not couple weeks, next couple days. There's a chance by the time you watch this video that you will see this data up here. I'm going to say that it's going to be pretty similar to other data that we have. I do have it for the Florida regionals that happened, and we do see a lot of people on the blue and purple Luffy, the green and purple Luffy, and the black and purple Luffy, as well as the Buggy. I do think that Buggy is a leader that has been a little bit overrepresented on people who are on it versus how many people who actually end up topping with it. We do get, like, weirdly enough, someone top with it on every event in this format, right? We do have it just 1 copy. It's like a constant in this meta that someone is playing Buggy and they're having a great day with it, and they're going to be able to get to that top. But based on the number who are playing it, I don't think it's something that is represented from that. We also do have a lot of interesting one-of leaders that we've seen already from the 5 events that we've had. And in general, I think this meta is really diverse for what we're seeing. I do know that, like, if your leader is purple and has the straw hat tag, you are above average when it comes to usability, but I don't think it's to a point where it's unusual. I think the only like kind of big polarizing event that we've had right now, we've had 2 kind of like what I would say like unpolarizing or like, very homogenized ones compared to the other ones is the Let's Play game Sydney regionals as well as the Florida regionals. We do see like just a lot of green purple Luffy and purple Luffy's in, like the 30, over 2/3 of the top 16. So I think that is something that's, is an issue. I do know that purple Luffy is still doing very well into Japan as well, into their OP12 format. We have a little bit of data here on this website too. If you want to check that out, we're going to continue to do that as well. But I also do know like Bandai's made like a statement that they are looking into if there needs to be a change in the next little bit. But generally speaking, I think that some of the new star decks has added some more creativity to us. Like the fact that like for specifically the core TCG Las Vegas regionals, I think that's something where there's so many decks that were able to get into that top 32. Now this also was a 10-24 events. The rest of these were 5-12 or lower, and they had only like a top 16 cut. So that's one big difference between that and the core TCG one. But again, like so many leaders I think are viable. I do think that it's a little bit of a step down where there are like clearly these decks are better than others, but it's not to a point that it really suppresses other decks from being into the meta. So I do think that some people are just like done with purple Luffy, and I get it. And even if you don't like this format, I get that too, because everyone, you have your own opinions, right? Everyone likes to play a certain kind of deck, and if this is a format where the deck you like to play isn't viable, I understand why you don't like the format. But I do think that for something where we get like this day one where we have all these new leaders, not leaders, but new cards to support other leaders around, I think they did a pretty good job. I think the only like of the 6-star decks we've seen like Shanks be the one where not a lot of support is added to kind of the deck or kind of the color as well. But everything else, right, specifically for the core TCG Las Vegas regionals, every leader that got a star deck outside of Shanks was able to get some into this top 32, right? The fact that we have the Yamato as well as the Buggy, we have the purple and black Luffy, the Teach, and the Bonnie. I think also that the Las Vegas regionals was an anomaly because we had so many Bonnie do well for this event. Previously, like I don't think Bonnie topped any other event in this season, but having 3 into the top 32 and all of them advanced to the top 8 as well. We had 2 in the top 4. Like that is just like a really good kind of conversion for people playing Bonnie. And I do kind of expect that leader to be a little bit more popular because of that, because people are kind of re-exploring how good the deck can be in this format. So all I'm trying to say is that I think this format is still very open. I do think that it's pretty known that some decks are kind of performing better than others, but it's to a point where I think there's still a lot of variety, and I think a lot of decks are viable in their own way, and we can kind of show that when we go to the tier list. So let's just jump over there right now. All right, here is my current tier list for the OP11 meta of the English version of the One Piece card game. I have my previous tier list above me. Again, this is a tier list that was more kind of just prediction based and based on my own experience going into the format. We didn't really have any tournament data for our format, and since we had some new cards, this was just kind of my expectations going in, and this is where we've been kind of like 2 weeks later. So to kind of explain the tiers for this list specifically, we've got top 3. These are just decks that were able to win events, and just generally I would expect to be in every top cut that we have. So it's Betty, the green purple Luffy, and blue purple Luffy. And I think mildly in that order, I think these are all very strong. Obviously based by wins, Betty's doing better than these other 2, but not necessarily doesn't mean that it's the best leader because of 3. I think all 3 of these are mildly interchangeable, but if you're to do a top, like, if you're doing like 9 rounds of Swiss, you would be pretty inclined to run into at least one of all of these, I think, in my opinion. We also have tier 1, which is kind of just decks that are topping, I think, a little bit more than usual. They haven't gone a win yet, but I would expect them in most of these cuts, and they generally have. It's the purple and black Luffy, the purple Luffy, the blue Buggy, as well as the Marshall D. Teach. I do think that I probably overestimated purple and black Luffy a little bit. It was really strong in some of my testing, but I do think people are kind of adjusting to it as well. I do think I kind of overestimated Buggy a little bit too. I think Buggy's still been strong. It's kind of like the Usopp from previous sets where people are like, oh, either that deck is trash or, oh, this deck is secretly good. You just have to know how to play it. So I do think it's going to continue to top. It might be because so many people are still on the deck, and honestly it's one of the easier decks to get into this game. So I think that some people will, as in like just at least acquiring the cards, right? And then we also have Teach. I think that this might be like a little bit overshooting Teach still, but it's a deck that I think that gets better with every week because people are getting more and more used to the format. Teach is a deck that gets better when you know exactly what cards are in your opponent's deck or how they play, because you are kind of trying to counteract how they play as well. But I do think that there is some it's rough to some aggression decks too, and so it's not something that definitely is going to have 100% matchups into a lot of decks, but I do think it's very relevant. Next up, we've got the tier 1.5. So these are decks that have been able to top in this format. These are decks that I don't think are going to top every event, but we've been able to sneak them in so far. So first one's Rob Lucci, which this is probably the leader that I was probably wrong the most about in my initial tier list. I put it in experimental just because it was a deck that I didn't feel like got a lot of tops in Japan during this time. It also got like a lot of restrictions and stuff, and it was a deck that I just generally wasn't very like popular. Like I just wasn't believing in it a lot. So I think this is one that I was definitely wrong with. It's gotten a lot of tops in these past 2 weeks, and I do think it's going to continue to do well as well. So that's, I think, going to be at like the top of tier 1.5, and I could definitely see bumping up to tier 1 in the next couple weeks with more results. We also have Red and Green Smoker. This is a deck that I also put in experimental. I think like tier 1.5 is probably where this is going to be. I think it's a deck that's going to be it's not unheard of for it to go X2 in a lot of events and sneak into that top cut with good tiebreakers. We've seen it do well. We've seen it also get like a top 4 finish. So I think Smoker is viable in its own way. We've got Newgate, which it's gone 2 tops by 1 person in 2 events. So shout outs to JCM. I think like this deck is still really good, and he's obviously proving it as well. It's going to be interesting to see if it's going to cast a wider net, but just like the conversion for Newgate from like people on the deck to how many serials it's won, or like top 16 like invites it's gotten in these last couple of weeks is insane. Like it's very, very insane. We also have Green Yellow Law, which I think I put in my tier list. I think I put that I think Yamato was better than it. At this point, I think they're pretty comparable as both around the same. They've had about the same amount of tops. I think Law's gone a couple more than what it is, so I will probably give the edge to Green Yellow Law. But generally speaking, I think both these decks are strong. They do have like a little bit of clunkiness, but they got a lot of support from the star decks. And we've been also seeing Law like do very well in Japan, and this is without Kid and Killer from the Bonnie star deck. So I do think it's something that's going to continue to do well as we go through. Bonnie I put into the good decks, and I don't know if I'm like overrating it, if I'm underrating it. Bonnie's kind of like a weird spot for this one. It's only topped 1 of the 5 events, but it got like 3 tops in a top 8 for 1,000 people. So it's clearly like people who are playing it don't know if they can commit to it, if it's worth playing. But I do think that we're probably going to see more Bonnies throughout the next couple weeks, so I can definitely see that being bumped up to tier 1 as well. Reiju got 1 top. Shout out to Karar in Florida. I do think that it got a lot of support, and a lot of people are on this deck. I do know a lot of people got some X2 finishes and bubbled out from some previous events as well. So I do think it will still top through these next couple weeks. And then we also have like Black Yellow Luffy and Calgara. These ones are like a little bit of like anomalies, and I would say that normally these would be in tier 2, but they were able to get their wins, so they're already in this tier 1.5. So they've only gone 1, but I think they're really great runs, and congratulations to both the players who were able to kind of beat the odds in my mind and put those there. So tier 2, these are leaders that have not gotten like a proper top. A lot of these have gone like X2 finishes and could bubble into like a top 16 or a top 32. They haven't done so yet, but these are decks that I think are still viable in their own way. They've just been kind of like unproven in that way. So these are decks that I just don't think are just as good in this current format. We've got the red, purple, or like have not been proven to be good, I guess, in this format. So red, purple Luffy and purple and yellow Nico Robin. These are purple Straw Hat crew type characters, right? So I think that these could be good, and honestly they're probably better than we're looking at. It's just like there's not really a reason to play these leaders when we have these other like 4 better purple Straw Hat leaders. So I think most people are playing with those. We have Usopp, which was able to get a good top in my top 16 for the 128 person event that I ran going into this format. I think Usopp still has like some weird interactions. I don't think a lot of people are on it, but it could get a top 32. Nami's the deck that I've been playing a lot in this format, and I really wish it was relevant a little bit more. It did get some wins and some tops in Japan as well. They do get a lot of boost from the Odin, from the Whitebeard star deck, which we're not getting till September. So my current mentality is that I probably have to put a pause on Nami. I don't think it's going to be as good without those cards quite yet, but it's still a really fun deck, and I think it's going to get better in the future, so be on the lookout. We've got our purple Big Mom pirate cards of Katakuri and Pudding. I know a lot of people are trying this deck a lot going into this format, and I think that these could get a top finish as well. They just haven't done so yet. Marco, same kind of thing. I know a lot of people have been playing this deck, and playing Sanji 9-drop in this format I think is great, and so Marco's still like one of the better leaders to do so. We've got a couple yellow decks of Enel, Captain Kidd, and Katakuri. With Enel, obviously without Kingdom Come, it's a little bit tougher to play in this format, but I know a lot of people who are trying to do, have success with it still. You also have Eustace Captain Kidd, which randomly, in my mind, did really well in Japan. in their OP12 format this last weekend, which I'll have that deck list on the website soon. But the fact that like this is like just a yellow supernova deck can have some access to some things. Also, we've got like our Katakuri, Arnami, and Zoro. These are three leaders that I think are just like never the worst leaders for anyone in these formats. I think just based on the way these work, these can be very strong. Of like Katakuri being having like their life burn, Nami being like the alternate win condition, as well as Zoro. Like Red Zoro still is doing well in Japan, which I think is very wild. We also have like a couple additional decks of like the green and blue Zoro Sanji, Kobe, Shanks, Star Deck 14, Luffy, and Carrot. These are just decks I know a lot of people have been testing and been trying to make work. I haven't seen a lot of results from them yet, but I think that they could get there, with the people who have been committing to them. So the rest, any leader I haven't mentioned is probably in the rest. Dofi might be like a little bit low ball. We could maybe put it in the tier 2, but with Buggy walking around here, like which wasn't really walking around in Japan, like I just don't think this leader has really any shot, right? Like it's just very tough for it. A lot of decks just kind of are doing what it wants to do but better, and so I don't think there's like a lot of reason to play Doflamingo right now. It might be like a little bit of a low blow, but I think we're just going to put it there. Red Green Law, I know a lot of people have been testing this too, with especially like the new Kid and Killer support. This could maybe be put up there, and honestly, like a lot of these leaders I wouldn't mention, but they were in my previous tier list, so a lot of these are kind of like in the experimental tier that I just kind of bumped down to saying I don't really believe in them currently. So which includes Red Purple Uta, which I thought could get some good support from the Shank stuff, and I haven't seen it yet. And then Lim, I think was something that was really good, specifically in OP10 with the support it got, but kind of got power crept by just other decks existing trying to do the same thing but better. But also, being able to remove 5-drops is kind of like the sweet spot. There's a lot of people who so part of the issue for some of these decks is that you have removal, but you remove like 4, 5, 6 costs, right? And if you're trying to get rid of like a 1 or 2 cost, it's usually really expensive. So it's usually in your favor if you're playing a 1-drop, because your opponent has to kind of overuse Dawn to remove it. But like because of that green purple limb, you like all the things that you want to stay on board, people have like the perfect removal options for it, which makes it very tough. And you're still really susceptible to that removal. So other than that, again, this is my tier list. Doesn't mean that it's the only tier list for this one, and not that it's cemented, but this is kind of my mentality of leaders into this format and going into the next couple weeks too. So it's likely going to change as well as we get more data and more people figure out stuff. I still think that this is a unique format, so there could be a deck or a list that is still like in the in production or people are working on that could have a breakout experience. I didn't really mention it either, like even for like the core TCG event, right? Our first place list from Nick was running a really unique build for what it was, right? Having a the Don Quixote package for it is, I think, really unique, and so a lot of people it caught me off guard. I know it caught a lot of other people as well. So anyways, that's going to be it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. Let me know what I got right, what I got wrong, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this format too. So again, that's going to be it for me, and I'll catch you all next time.